Hi, I'm Lars. Welcome to the C# workshop. This video is a brief get you up and running in Visual Studio 2022. In this video you're going to learn how to download and install Visual Studio, create, run, and debug a console application. The other videos in the series I will talk about 90% of every aspect of programming to get you up in coding. Again, this is not a master class, this is like a boot camp. In the other videos in the series, I will talk about 90% of every aspect in computer programming and in .NET. Each video will build on the previous one, giving a needed foundation for a programmer. After this video series, there'll be a series of deep dive videos into specific topics. Feel free to request a topic if you want. A little bit about my background. I've been working in IT for 48 years. I started out with two languages, B and Pascal. Then I switched to Ada, which was based on Pascal, and I switched to C that was based on B, and went up both of those food chains. Eventually, I ended up in Turbo Pascal, which I liked a lot. It had the fastest compiler on the planet, and it still might be the fastest compiler on the planet because it's a single pass compiler. It was the first one of its kind. I then moved to Delphi and then to C#. Many people will tell you that C# came from another language, but C# has the flair of a C language, but is definitely the child of Delphi. If you're a Delphi developer, you'll see the similarities between the two. If this interests you and you want to learn about Visual Studio, .NET, and C#, then take this journey with me and let's get to it. On this site is the Visual Studio community download, and I will put this link down in the description along with a bunch of other links. They may have a space after HTTPS because YouTube really doesn't like it when you send out external links. I don't know why, so just keep that in mind. This website will tell you a lot that you need to know about Visual Studio community. You can go through and read about all the different types of things that you need to get installed. It just, basically they're trying to sell you Visual Studio. At the very bottom of this page, there is three options. There's Visual Studio Community, Visual Studio Professional, and Visual Studio Enterprise. Community and Professional are the same tool. Community is if you're a student, you're doing open source stuff, and individual developers. If you have, I believe, 5 or more employees, you need to be using Professional or Enterprise. The difference between these two is there's more features in this, like more tools for analysis and for architects. For us, we're going to be working in Visual Studio Community. And again, like I said, if you become a professional developer with Visual Studio, 99% chance you're going to be working with Visual Studio Professional anyway. So this is a free download. Click free download. It's going to ask you where you want to put it. I'm going to throw mine in downloads. And when it's done, we're going to open the downloads and we're going to run the executable. Right now, there's a window on my screen that says user account control. Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? You need to answer yes to this. And then it will continue doing its download. And then you're going to get Visual Studio installer needs to get set up. You hit continue. It's downloaded and installed. Once the installer is installed itself, you're going to get an option for Visual Studio Community 2022. It may be under the Available tab, but you're going to want to go in and modify, or this screen may come up just by itself. On the Workloads tab, there's 4 tabs here that are kind of hard to see. They're just words, but there are 4 tabs. Workload, you need to check ASP.NET and Web Development. You need to check .NET Desktop Development. And if you roll this down some, you're going to need Data Storage and Processing. Those 3 things are the minimal checks that you can do in order to get desktop development, web development, and data storage with some SQL Server, a data lake, anything like that. Okay. If you want, you can check any other box if you want to check it out, but we're not going to be covering any of that in this video series. Under individual components, make sure you have .NET 9.0 runtime checked. If anything else is checked, just leave it checked. That means something on your machine needs it, but make sure you check the .NET runtime. Language packs, I'm an American, I speak English-ish, so I have that checked. If you want to do this in a different language, you can check those. The installation locations are the Visual Studio IDE gets put in program files, the download cache gets put in program data. At this point, you're ready to do the install. You can do this one or two ways. You can say download all, then install, or install while downloading. Most people do install while downloading. Now just click the button on the bottom right, and you're good to go. This download will take a little bit of time, depending on what your speed is, and the install will take a little bit of time, depending on what the speed of your computer is. Once it's done, you can come here and click Launch, and then Visual Studio will start up. When you first start up Visual Studio 2022 or any version of Visual Studio, you end up with this thing here, which is called the Start screen. You can do a lot of things here. You can open up recent projects, clone a repository, open a project or solution by looking for it, open a local folder, or create just a new project, or you can continue without code. For us, we're going to create a new project. Now, when you create a new project, you have the choice to grab whichever language you want, all your platforms, which is a variety of them, and any project type. The language we're going to be using is C#. We're going to be doing a console application today, and this is just to go over the ins and outs of Visual Studio to get you up and running. So you click on your console project either here or here, it doesn't matter. Once you use one, you can pin it, as I have this one pinned. Out of all of these templates, you will, in your entire career, the most ones you're going to use are console app, you're going to use ASP core web API, and you're going to use class library. The last one will be some sort of front end. I use Blazor web app for my front end, although you can do an ASP.NET core web app if you would like. So for the project name, let's just say project 1. That would be good. And I'm just going to stick it into my YouTube location. I always check place, solution, and project in the same directory. The framework we're using is .NET 9.0. Currently I have on here .NET 8 and .NET 9. However, .NET 8 is in long-term support and .NET 9 is in standard term support. To find out more about the .NET and .NET Core support policy, I will put this link in the documentation. We're going to choose .NET 9.0 standard term support. We're not going to use any top level. We don't need any container, and we don't need to native AOT publish. So here we're going to hit create. So once the template is run, this is what you should be seeing on your screen at the moment. We're not talking about get changes, so we're going to close that. But you have your menu bar, you have your toolbar, you have your file, your open file, which is program, you have your Solution Explorer. Hey, if you think there's too much information to remember, then like and subscribe to the channel. Then you'll have a URL that you can go back and look at anytime. So let's start with the menu bar. Standard stuff, file, new, open, close solution, edit, your standard copy, paste, delete stuff. Your view has in it all of the tool windows that are possible within Visual Studio. You do not need to learn all of the hotkeys for your tool windows. However, there are a couple that I would really highly suggest. Solutions Explorer, which is the one over here. Just in case you accidentally close this, the Ctrl Alt L will get you back to it quicker than you going through the view here and trying to find it. That's pretty much it. And if you're doing a lot of Windows stuff, like Windows Forms or WPF or stuff like that, I would keep Toolbox, the Ctrl Alt X in your head. Those two are very good just to have around. The Git stuff is all cloning repositories, and we're not going to talk about this during this video, but I just want to know you to know where it's at. It is pretty nice. It's built into Visual Studio. It's really nice. I'll put a video out on that later. Project, anything in here will pertain to the current project. All right. So a solution can have multiple projects. It doesn't just need to have just one. And this, whatever one you're on, these are going to apply to. So I don't really go in here that often. I would rather go into my dependencies and manage my NuGet packages or do something with my project here, like adding a file, a class, something to that effect. And we'll get into all that as this series goes on. The build is build solution. So here's another one of those hotkeys I would tell you to remember is Ctrl Shift B. Down in the documentation, I have a list of all the hotkeys that I use pretty much daily. So what I would suggest doing is taking those out, printing them, typing them up, writing them up on note cards, or just putting stickers on your machine and learn like a couple hotkeys a day, and then you can remove the stickers and stuff from your machine. Debug, start and debugging is F5. Keep that in mind. Start without debugging is Ctrl F5. Yes, there are times you want to do this, and we'll get into that later. But right now, we just need to know that these are two hotkeys that you want to know. This is your F5 from the IDE, and this is your Ctrl F5 from the IDE, if you want to click on these here. Depending on what area you're in, you may see test, or if you have an XML file, you might see XML here. Okay, so it's creating schemas and stuff. XML is used in just configurations. JSON is really taking and getting rid of XML, basically. SOAP is going away, so not many people are using XML for stuff. Test is if you have any tests that you want to run. Analyze, you can calculate your code metrics. Just do analysis and stuff on your solutions and projects to see how difficult it is to maintain, how easy it is to read, stuff like that. Visual Studio does a really good job on that. Tools, there's a lot of stuff in here. You can add external tools if you use them a lot. There's some stuff for Python, the command line, developer command prompt. Options. Options is very, very important. You will probably be, out of everything up here, you'll be in options more than anything else. Extensions, these are the extensions that you're running within the IDE. There are other extensions out there. Okay, so the installed stuff is all Microsoft. And you can see here there's machine learning.net, Python profiling if you're doing any Python stuff, your library manager, just various stuff. However, you can also, if you would like to, ReSharper is a really good tool. You can learn all about all this stuff here if you want to buy it. Window controls everything about your windows. As you saw before, I reset my window layout to put it like this. The next step of this is your little toolbar here. So this is your navigate backwards and navigate forwards. So if I was to open up another file, the project file, and then I hit navigate backwards, which would be Control minus, I would end up back on program. If I would navigate forward, which would be Control Shift minus, I would end up on project. You could open and create a new project. You could open a file. You can save a file, or you could save all of the files. Now, these are all standard all the way across here for anything that's Microsoft. So this here would be undo. So if I come in here like this and go, ta-da, this is undo, and then this would be redo. So if I delete that out, right, so I undo something, now I can redo it. That would delete it. So this is Control O, Control S, Control Shift S. So remember, you're kind of seeing the shift is like the opposite or more functionality with the keyboard. So if you're shifting, you're like, no, I want to save everything. It's Control Shift S. Just like when you're finding something, it's Control F. But if you want to find something in a project or a solution, it's Control Shift F. Undo is Control Z, standard across all Windows. And redo is Control Y, again, standard across all Windows. This is your configuration manager. Do you want to debug? You're probably rarely going to change this from debug to release, or this from anything else but any CPU. But there are times where you may need to. project again, run with debug, run without debug, Ctrl F5. This is for a hot reload. We'll get into that later. This is find in files, so this is the Ctrl Shift F. This is a little different now. So this one is you're going to look in the entire solution. All right. One powerful thing about find or replace or whatever, you don't only have to look in the solution. You can go look in a current directory. You could go look in another directory someplace else for what you're looking for, and it will look inside of every file until it finds what you want. This one is Start Window. So again, that button launched the Start Window, the same one that we had when we first started this video. This is Spell Checker. So you can turn it on, you can turn it off, and sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's annoying. This is Display Quick Info. You can also do Ctrl K, Ctrl I. So like if I'm here, you can click on this and see your quick info. Or I can sit on there with the mouse and hit Ctrl K, Ctrl I, and it will come up. Again, it's a lot easier to do a couple of these things like this or tab over to here than it would be for me to click here, move to here, click here, move to here. Keystrokes are always faster. This is why when people do 10 keys, okay, or when they're entering data in, they don't want their fingers off the keyboard, because if they're having to move a mouse or whatever, that takes time away from how fast they get their job done. This one says switch between automatic and tab only IntelliSense compilation. Basically, Control Alt Space is what you need to know. So if you need something here for IntelliSense, you hit Control Alt Space. Let me get rid of that, and you'll get the IntelliSense. All right. This is comment and uncomment. So if I'm sitting here and I hit comment, it's going to comment the whole line. I hit this, go to uncomment. Same thing if I hit Ctrl KC to comment or Ctrl KU to uncomment. These are bookmarks. So you can tag things with a bookmark. I can hit Ctrl KK here and put a bookmark in. However, you need to know where your bookmarks are. So you come down here and you say View, and then you come down to Bookmark Window, or Ctrl K, Ctrl W, and there's your bookmark. You might leave that behind. It really doesn't do anything. It just gives you like you're marking your code for something you want to go back to look at. So then you can delete it without having to find it. If you have a bunch of bookmarks, so you can move them back and forth or you can clear them. You can also add and remove more buttons up here if you want. Personally, I don't really mess with the toolbar that often. All right. The next tool window I want to talk about is Solution Explorer. And you will spend most of your time in Solution Explorer. So this is one that you're really going to want to know. Even if you don't learn anything else up here except for clicking on Project to run, or F5 to run your application in debug mode, the Solution Explorer is very important. So this first button here switches between solutions and available views. I find this pretty much useless. Honestly, I do. I don't think I've ever used this before. This is your things that have pending changes on them, and if you're working in Git or something like that, it is useful. This button collapses everything. It does not stay clicked in, so if you clicked it again, it's going to try to collapse again. It will not expand your list back out, so you'll have to manually do that. This button is to show all files. Now, since we've already compiled this one time, under bin debug net, these are your actual files that will run your application as it is right now. So if you wanted to, you could take these and move them into another directory, or just go there and execute it and it would run. So we don't want to do that. Sometimes I have this showing, sometimes I don't. It just depends. This button is to nest files. If you're building something in ASP.NET, you'll have a webpage.aspx, and underneath it, nested in, just like this one here is nested underneath project, there'll be a file that is called whatever your web page name is .cs, and that holds your code behind. So this button is your properties button. If you're on a file like a CS file or a configuration file, you'll have something that will come up over here and tell you, what do you want to do with this when I do a build? Do you want to copy it to the output directory? However, if you're sitting on a project, or a solution, so it's set on the project and you click it, you're going to get a window over here. This is the same as coming in here and right-clicking and going down to Properties, or right-clicking on here and going down to Properties. Either one will work, or just hitting Alt-Enter. If you have this pop up, that's where it's going to be from. And this last thing is the Preview Selected Item. So you notice Project is being shown here because I clicked on it. So this is being previewed. If I was to turn this off and click on it, it will no longer preview. This I find very handy, so I usually leave it set. Now, the way the Solution Explorer works is it's a tree view, and the top portion of this is the solution. All right, your solution is tied to all of the projects that are in here. You can have solutions that can have as many projects as you can add to it, and the way that you would do that is you would right-click on Solution, come to Add, and you would add a new project. You could add an existing project. You could add a website. You can also add items to the projects or solution folders at the solution level. Don't really recommend this. There are instances where you want to do that. They're very far and few in between of any application that you may write. But here you can build a solution, rebuild a solution, clean the solution, which means delete everything out of the debug folder that I was showing you earlier. So it has the ability to, so in the solution, you can right click and you can say build solution, rebuild solution, clean solution. Clean solution will basically go into, if you go click on this button for show all files and debug, it will delete all these out and rebuild all of them. Okay, so a rebuild means to clean and build. All right, there's clean, there's build, and then there's clean, the rebuild, which will clean and build. A lot of developers don't know that about this. All right, I think personally that it should be build, clean, and then rebuild, because that's what it does. You got to build, you can clean it, or you can rebuild it, which will do a clean and a rebuild, clean and a build. So you can also analyze and code cleanup. Notice this here, this analyze and code cleanup is, the same thing right here. And the build stuff is right here. Build, rebuild, clean. You have quite a few different things that are just duplicated of what's up here. These are the most important menu items that you would find in the menu bar. However, they're all located together, like manage NuGet packages for solution, restore your NuGet packages, your configuration manager. You won't be using all of this stuff. The biggest thing that you're going to use on here, out of all honesty, will be adding a new project or an existing project to your solution. All right. You're probably not going to create a Git repository from the solution. There's a possibility if you have rights to, if you're at work. If you're doing this on your own, by all means you will. And I will have a video on Git with creating a Git repository and cloning a Git repository. Now the same thing happens at the project level. If you right click on the project level, you'll see build, rebuild, clean. These are on the project level. So like over here on the project side, you have add class and all this stuff. You also have, this is build solution. You have the build project, rebuild, clean, pack, publish. So that's the second part of this. Okay. Pack, publish, upgrade. That's all here. Same kind of stuff, but this is more at a project level, not at a solution level. If you hit edit project file, it's just clicking on it. This is what's going to come up. And yes, you will be in there quite a bit. Manage network NuGet packages for the project, user secrets, a variety of different startup projects that you can edit. Debug is actually very important. So just remember this is here for right now. The add, you can add new items, existing items. There's a bunch of different things. And class is a shortcut to a specific new item. All right. So if you just want to add a class, then you just add class. If you're looking to add something else like a configuration file, you can hit new item here. And you can see all of the different types of items that you can have. These are all C# items. You just want to look ones for code or data. This will help you filter stuff down a little better. You can also check online to see what's out here. So there's other things that are out here. All right. Not saying that this is something that I head to a lot with the online stuff, but there are templates, that are out here. These are the stuff that are online. So I try to stick with items that are available through Microsoft. 99.99999, and run those nines out as far as you want. You will find whatever you need in a Microsoft DLL, class library, package, or whatever. And even though a lot of people go out there and they think they've done it better, eventually you'll find that there's CVEs, which are also known as common vulnerabilities and exploitations, which means if you use them, people will be able to hack your code. Just last year, this is 2024, so it had been 2022 to 2023. Everybody used to use Newtonsoft in the past, and then Newtonsoft finally said, stop using our stuff. Use the system.io.txt from Microsoft because there's no CVEs in it. We don't want anyone having any CVEs in their system. And a lot of people never went back. And that was kind of big on Newtonsoft. I know a lot of people that have gone back, but some people just kept using it. So you got to kind of watch what you add into your project as far as packages. But anyway, this here is available. So you can add existing items, new items, whatever, machine learning models. You can also, it also has, cut, remove, rename, cut, remove, or rename the project. You can unload a project, and then again, you got your properties. So these are the main things that you're going to be dealing with. The highlights that you need to look at is for project is the add. So mainly on a project, you're going to be adding classes, and there's two different ways this will come up. This is seeing the entire template. So one thing also I want to show you is sometimes when you bring up project, you hit add a new item, you may see this little shortcut window. So you can type in, whatever you want here is the file name once you know more about the templates, or you can hit show all templates. So if you were looking for a class, it's going to end in CS. If you're looking for a JSON configuration file, you would type in JSON. So here's a compact. If I was to come in here and say, JSON file.json and hit add, it's going to know that this is a JSON file. All right, there's nothing that's going to be different. It works off an extension. So if you're comfortable with coming in and just say adding a new item, I like to look around, so most of the time mine's open to this, but you can use a compact view. The next step is your output. Your output window, you can do a build, you can look at the build, you can look at the build order, you can look at a variety of different things down here. Most of the time, you're going to be looking at build, or you could be looking at debug. So for instance, if we run this code, I just hit F5, see it says hello world. If I go to output, and we're sitting in debug, you'll see all of the stuff that has actually run, and that this is, skip loading, YouTube, symbols loaded. It tells you everything about what's going on in your debug. If we were to make an error up here, and we did a compile with Ctrl Shift B, you'll notice we're going to get an error right here. So I'm going to move that over. So there's output, error lists, and bookmarks. So inside of the error list, this is the one thing I really like about Visual Studio is if I double click on this, I'm going to go right. So let me put the cursor down here somewhere. And if I double click on this, it'll bring me right to where the error is at. Okay, so I can put the E back in, rebuild, and we're all good. And that's pretty much what the error list is good for. We'll get more into the error list for complex programs. Before we get very much deeper into this area here, the actual code, we're going to go to Tools and then into Options. And there's a couple things that I highly recommend that you do. One of the things is here under Text Editor, and then all languages, and you'll see scroll bars. I would turn this, that's what I normally do, turn this for map mode for vertical scroll bar, and I leave it on narrow, and I like the preview of the tooltip. So what this does is as I mouse out here, I can see my code as I'm going down. So if I were to take this code here and just get it off the screen a little bit, like that. I can go down and look through the code pretty easily. Also, if I was to save this, everything went green. So that tells me what's saved. If I start editing this and moving it down or whatever, the stuff in yellow will show me this is where I was editing. If you do end up with a long bit of code, which I really don't recommend, it really shows you where you've done some changes. It tracks it very well. Another quick way to get to the scroll bar options is to right click on this, go to scroll bar options, and it'll put you right here in case you want to make this wide, narrow, turn off preview or whatever. The other thing I want to show you in here is inside under environment and tabs and windows. I don't like colorizing my documents. You can do this all day long if you want. I don't. And I don't like showing the close button in the document well, but I do like it on the document tabs. This little X right here is the X that I'm talking about for the document tab, document well. This is the document well here. And this is the document close button on the document tab. That is enough for me for right now. Now, I'm going to save this and I'm going to open up this other file. Something about .NET or Visual Studio I like is you can take this and your row style here is on 1. If I roll my mouse down while I'm hovering on this, I can make this 2 rows or 1. If I had more files to open up, I could actually show you more of them. So they would just keep on stacking up. There's another way inside of the same tools, tabs and windows that you can make anything that's not being shown. So like if I was here and this was looking like this, you would see program 1 in italics. So that's up to you if you want to go down that path. One thing about the search up here is I was to put in here scroll bar options or scroll bar preview. Show preview of scroll bars, show preview tooltip. You can just double click on this and it will bring you to where you need to be. You just need to know some sort of what verbiage around what you're looking for. So that's really cool about search. So let's go back to running the application, but I don't want the application to end right away. Otherwise, I can't show you what I need you to, what I needed to see. So we're going to put in here right line completed. Press the enter key like that. I'm going to put a console.readline in here. And what this will do is when we run the project, it'll say completed and just hang here. And then we just need to, I'm just going to set this here and click back in this area. When an application is running and you're in debug mode or whatever mode you need to be in, if say we put a breakpoint here, you'll see all the autos for your variables, your locals, something you want to add to the watch, this call stack that you went through, breakpoints, which is the breakpoint I just set here, any exception settings, like what kind of exceptions you want to catch, the command window, the immediate window, and the output window. Diagnostic tools will also be running. I don't typically use these unless I really need them, so I will auto hide that and I will open up my Solution Explorer and the Get Changes. I will get rid of the Get Changes and I'm going to pin the Solution Explorer. So now this is the same Solution Explorer that we had before. I'm just going to go here and grab properties. All right. Not doing anything crazy. I just want you guys to see that. And then we're going to go back over to here and then we're going to hit enter. And as you can see, it all looks the same. Some of the dialogues at the bottom disappeared, but I'm not worried about that. What I want to show you is the way that I set up my Visual Studio. And I grab this entire Solution Explorer and I take it and I dock it on the far side. So this moves my output window over. I understand that, but I want to see more of my Solution Explorer. And I also want it to be on the left-hand side. And the reason is because when I run this, Visual Studio will automatically move it over when it's running. It's a lot easier for me to look at this as it is and say this is a running application because it's over here. Yeah, I know continues grayed out, the stop's not here, but watch This is drastically different than this. So it's easier on me as a developer to say, oh yeah, this is running, this is not running. Or just in case, I've got a breakpoint sitting somewhere, there is no breakpoint, you can't stop it. So I work on visual cues, and most of the good developers in the world, the ones that people are like, yeah, he's really good or she's really good, they're going to work on visual cues too. This is one of my visual cues. I'm going to go over some hotkeys now, and I'm going to show you this list of hotkeys, but they don't try to copy them down. There are a lot more of these, okay? But these are the ones that you need to really get to understand. Debug, run, and stop. F5, Ctrl F5, and Shift F5. If you're the type of person that would rather come up here and click this, and then click this, that's fine. All right, there's no problem with that. But people get really used to seeing people hit their keys when they're coding. They don't really respond well, or they're not going to take you as a quality coder if you don't know hotkeys. All right. So like toggling a breakpoint's F9, stepping over code is F10, F11, Shift F11 will step you out. Now, what are these guys here? So I'm going to put a breakpoint right here, right? So I can hit F9, I can hit F5, and it will run. Now, if I hit F10, that'll execute, that'll execute, that'll execute, and now it's waiting for me to hit that. All right. So breakpoints are really powerful, but if you find yourself doing this and going, okay, which one am I doing here? Am I stepping over? Okay. And having to look for these 4 buttons that you know where they're at on your keyboard. If you're clicking this, people are not going to take you serious because they're going to be like, well, they don't really know the program really well. If they don't know how the IDE works, what the hotkeys are, they must not use this application that often. So keep that in mind. Search and navigation, F12 to go to a definition. If you want to peek at a definition, it's Alt F12. Go to implementation is Ctrl F12. Navigate forward and backwards is Ctrl minus. And if you want to go backwards, it's Ctrl Shift and minus. So keep that in mind. In order to show more of the hotkeys, I'm going to have to add another class. So I'm going to add a new class, and I'm going to call it worker. And those of you that have worked with me in real life know that worker is always my go-to. So I might put something in here like public void execute. Don't worry if you don't understand this code. It will only take a couple minutes to understand it. Inside a program, we're going to create a worker, and we're going to call it worker. Get rid of that. Then I'm going to say worker.execute. Now, all right, so the only thing that this did, this was what we call a constructor, and it's instantiating worker into memory, and then we're going to call the worker method. So we're going to run this. Nothing is going to be different. We're just moving around, moving in and out of a class. So if we go here and I hit step into, which is F11, now I'm inside of the worker class. We still got code out here that has to run. It's going to come back once this finishes. But that's all we're doing. All right. I can put more print signs or whatever on the other side. So if I want to find this guy here, this definition of execute, go to definition. So I hit F12 and that brings me to here. Now I want to go back where I was, so I can hit this Control minus and it will bring me back. Or I can just hit the Control minus on the keyboard. Okay. If I hit Control Shift minus, it'll bring me here and just keep on going back and forth. So that's what this Alt F12 does, and that's what this navigate back and forth does. Toggle to other curly brace. I'm going to put this over here and grab this. Toggling to the other curly brace. Well, if I'm on this curly brace and there's a bunch of code if I'm here on line 12, there's a bunch of code down through here, and I want to go find out what the other curly brace is. One thing with the colorized curly braces helps, and that you can find under Tools, Options, Text window. In the text editor, you can click on General, just be in the text editor. Roll this down, Enable Brace Pair Colorization. Without it, it's going to look like this. And this could get, if I start moving stuff around like this could get a little out of whack. You might think this is the brace. So either way, colorize or not, this will work. You hit Control and you hit that right square bracket. Look at that. See? You thought it was going to go here, but it did. It went here. You can hit it again, and it was bouncing back and forth between them. For those of you that have coded before, that is an incredible tool to have. Now, if you want to go to the top of the file, say we put this down through this, add a bunch of, we pretended we added a bunch of stuff in here, and this is, wherever. Now you want to go to the top of the file, you hit Ctrl Home, that'll bring you to the top of the file. Ctrl End will bring you to the bottom of the file. But say you're trying to just edit some code up here at the top. Say, I just want to edit that up there, and I don't want to arrow up to it completely. Ctrl Page Up, Ctrl Page Down. Okay, top of the file, the window, screen, and the bottom. Ctrl Page Down goes to the bottom. Now, if you wanted to comment or uncomment something, like say you wanted to comment out this method, okay, you can click there and here, and you hit Control KC, and you've commented it out. You want to uncomment it, Control KU. If you wanted this to be uppercase, you could hit Ctrl Shift U, or you can hit Ctrl U to go to lowercase. And there's just, a variety more of these things. So I will let you look through this and figure out how these work. One thing I do like is the formatting code. I'm going to get rid of some of these blank lines here. So this is a mess, right? This is like really becoming a mess. I don't know where everything goes. I'm going to hit Control KD, and it's going to straighten them out for me. This is very powerful. If you're up here and you want to remove and sort all the usings, you can do Control K, you can hit Control R, Control G, and you're going to remove all the stuff that you don't need, right? So you're going to do that over here. Execute, we deleted, right? So, or did we? It's right here, but the name of it has changed. See, this needs to be a capital E. It'll show back up. Now, I want to take you back, now that we have some code in here, inside a project file, there's the output, which is type exe. Target framework is 9.0. Implicit usings are enabled. I do not like this. I always disable them. I'm going to show you why. We're going to save. And all of a sudden, console is no longer, whoa, wait a second, we're trying to compile, we're getting all these errors, right? Well, it was working before. Now I could just put it back, or you could put your mouse over it, come here and say, let's use system. So now as a developer, you just figured out that system contains console. And it's very important to have system in your application. So you build again, and that's fine. The same kind of deal if I put over here in worker and execute, if I said, hello from worker. When I put that in, that console, it automatically put this in at the top. It wasn't there a minute ago, I assure you. Watch. Nothing's there. Now it is. So where do you think this is going to end up at? So if we save, Ctrl Shift B, and then F5 to run, there you go. Hello world, completed, press enter key, hello from worker. Now that's a little weird, right? So let's take a look at this. There's the completed, so that's right. So we need to move this down to make this make any sense. And then we're going to hit this little button here is a restart. And it will rerun the program. There you go. That looks better. If you wanted to minimize this, you could hit this button here and minimize this and break all, close these all up. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But if you did get it all closed up, you could hit Ctrl M, Ctrl O, and it will open up one thing at a time. You can also hit Ctrl M, and it will, wherever your cursor's at, it will close them up. You can hit Ctrl O, and it will open them back up. So that's just a little quick way if you need to. Sometimes you have like an if statement here. If 1 is equal to 1, because I don't want to create any variables. And that's sitting like this, and I want to close this up. I can hit Ctrl M, Ctrl M, Ctrl M, Ctrl M, and it will toggle it. This stuff, these little hotkeys and be able to collapse things like this is very effective with debugging and reading code. So at this point, we're going to wrap up this video. I think there's enough here for you to concentrate on at this point in time. Don't worry about knowing how to create a class. We're going to go through all this here in the next few videos. This is just about the IDE.
Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you're now open to using and more comfortable using Visual Studio. If you have a question about something, feel free to drop a note down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer anybody's questions. Hopefully some of you experienced developers have seen things that convinced you that these videos are worth time to watch. I hear that every day from developers. I had no idea that was possible. And I can almost guarantee there is things in this video that are about .NET, C#, and maybe just programming in general that some of you have no idea that can be done. The rest of the videos in this series are going to cover the particulars of C#. You're always welcome here at the C# workshop, and have a nice day.